And welcome to the newest upload on Exponential DFS. It's the newest edition of Exponential Sports Talk. I am Michael, or that guy Expo, joined by Corey, or Legion of Boom today, and we are going to be doing our SEC East preview show. So we're going to be bringing you guys an SEC West preview show next week, but today we are covering the SEC East exclusively. So what we're going to go ahead and jump into today, Corey can kind of go ahead and explain what we're going to be going through.
Yeah, we're just going to preview each team in the SEC East, talk about who's returning, who they lost, what we think their record's going to be. And then one thing I have to say is just thank you for the recent views on our A-Rod video. I really do appreciate that.
Absolutely. Kind of touched on that yesterday, but the views just keep going up and up, and we really do appreciate it. Spread our stuff around. We really do appreciate anyone that shares our content. So jumping into it, so where do you want to start? Do you want to start right away with our team? You want to start with the Gators?
Yeah, we can start with the Gators. No, let's do Tennessee first. We'll go we'll do what the media has projected to go. I think Tennessee, Florida. I know they have Georgia, so we'll kind of go with the media.
So we're going to go with the controversial team first.
Yeah, we can go with them. We'll kind of just do what the media has the SEC kind of going as.
All right, so go ahead and kind of explain why is the media having a love fest for Tennessee?
I think it's just because they're returning 9 starters on offense and they're returning 8 on defense. It's just the amount of talent they're bringing back.
Yeah.
I get why they're saying Tennessee's going to be good. I'm not buying it because I just want to see them do it first before I believe it. Now, if they do it, I'll say, okay, hands down, yeah, y'all are doing great. Yeah, I'll say I was wrong, but I want to see it first because I'm not buying into it because they just can't win their important games. They've lost 11 in a row to Florida. Mm-hmm. They've lost Alabama 9 times in a row. Yeah. They almost beat Oklahoma last year. They couldn't do it. Everybody talks about the games they won at the end of last year. The games they won last year, they beat all the bad teams. Their ending schedule was terrible last year. They didn't beat any team over 500 at the end. The only good team they beat, I would say, was Northwestern in their bowl game. Yeah. But Northwestern couldn't throw the ball. All they could do was run. They were basically a running team. They were Florida Treon Harris. That's what they were last year.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at them last year, right, they had Oklahoma basically beat. They let them off the ropes. They had Florida absolutely beat and let them come back and win on a miraculous play. I mean, Tennessee has always had this issue with closing games, and that's really what I was hearing last night when I was kind of doing research for this from even experts saying, can they do it this year? Okay, well, it's going to be, can they close games? Because they have this huge issue with closing games. I respect Butch Jones, but I don't think he's that great of a coach.
Yeah.
I don't see it. When you compare him to other coaches in the SEC, yeah, I mean, some of these other coaches, you could put him above them, but I think when you're talking about the top talent coaches in the SEC, he just doesn't stack up, in my opinion, and I think that's a huge issue when you're this hyped. I mean, has he ever coached a team that's been this hyped in his career?
No, the last team he coached for Tennessee was the Bearcats, and, I mean, he's really good, with his offense and his trickery. He's known for doing trick plays. I mean, we saw it in Florida with all the tricks he ran out. But the problem is, when he gets his leads, he kind of gets like a Will Muschamp mindset where he just has to be so conservative with the football. Right. And it's obvious that he doesn't trust Dobbs all the way because they just don't want him to throw the ball a lot. And, I mean, I get it because their receiving core is not that good. And Dobbs is a very inconsistent passer, and I actually question his ability to read defenses a lot of the times.
Yep.
But I'm having trouble buying into it. I think their defense will be very good because they're returning 8 starters. I think Nick Barnett's a future first-round pick. I like their linebacker, Reese Maben, and I think Cam Sutton's probably one of the better corners in the country. I mean, I wouldn't say he's the best in the SEC, but most Tennessee fans, but I would agree that he is probably one of the better corners in the country and could be a potential first-round pick, definitely a second-round pick. But yeah, I'm just not buying it. I think their run game's going to be strong with Hurd and Alvin Kamara, but I just have to see Dobbs actually be able to do something throwing the ball wise because he's having trouble throwing it, and their receiver core just doesn't look that good, especially after Pig Howard got kicked off the team last year, who was supposed to be their leading receiver.
Yeah, I mean, the issue I have with Tennessee as a whole is it's really hard in the SEC to get completely one-dimensional. I feel like,
Yeah.
especially against the better defenses, and
Yeah.
Tennessee is basically completely one-sided. I mean, I don't want to argue LSU is similar because I don't think they're going to be that bad this year with completely running the ball on every play, but I think LSU was that kind of team last year but it works because they have Fournette.
Well, yeah.
Tennessee, you can't get one-dimensional against certain defenses, Alabama, the Gators, LSU, defenses like that, and they play two of those three teams this year. So it's going to be interesting for them. I mean, when you look at their schedule and just analyze their schedule, they only have 4 real games, in my opinion. I think
Yeah.
Appalachian State, Virginia Tech, Ohio, South Carolina, Tennessee Tech, Kentucky, Missouri, and Vandy. They should beat all those teams pretty easily, right?
Yeah.
I don't see any of those teams really giving them much of a fight. Maybe Virginia Tech, but Virginia Tech's not the program they were. So it's possible they'll give them a game, but I still don't see them having too many issues. So their season really comes down to 4 games.
Yeah.
I mean, UF at home, at Georgia, at A&M, and Bama. So, kind of, how do you think they stack up in those 4 games? Because right now, I have them going 2-2 in those games. So I have them finishing like 10-2, 6-2 in conference. I have them losing to Florida, and I have them losing to Bama.
I have them going 9-3. I have them losing that A&M game too. I think that's just a tough game to go in, and especially in their environment with the 100,000 plus fans they have. I think A&M will be a little bit better. I know their defense isn't great, but like we talked about, we don't trust the Volunteers' offense, and I think Texas A&M will have a pretty good offense this year.
Night, so
yeah, and they have 5-star receivers all over that team, and they can spread the ball out very well. And I don't know. I think A&M can easily beat them. I think Georgia will give them a game too. I mean, at Georgia, that's never an easy game, but I don't trust Georgia enough at this point in the season, knowing what the holes that they have on that roster.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, I think if I were to pick them losing 3 games, in my opinion, I think I'd pick them losing to Florida, Georgia, and Bama. I feel like going into Georgia might be a little bit tougher. I mean, going into A&M, like that's gonna be a tough game. Don't get me wrong. I'm just not sold on A&M's defense, like you said, and I want to see it this year. I feel like someone's kind of losing hold on this team a little bit, so I'm a little curious about how it's going to be this year for them. I mean, I've seen predictions all over the place. And we'll kind of talk about this when we get into the West show, but I mean, even A&M fans, I think, are a little confused. Okay, so we either think they can do really, really good, or they're going to be really bad. Like, it's going to be kind of one of the two, I think. And I don't know which one to lean. I don't think they're going to be this amazing team, but I don't really think they're going to be awful either. And I think Tennessee is going to be good enough to get by A&M, but I think I do have them beating Georgia because, like you said, I'm not completely sold on Georgia. I think Georgia's going to be a strong team. But I think Florida has a legitimate chance, even though Florida has to go on the road into Tennessee to beat them. And I definitely think they lose to Bama. I don't think they're good enough to beat Bama still.
No, they're not even close to Bama. I could see Georgia beating them. Georgia, I think, has too many holes. They've lost all 3. They play a 3-4 defense, which, if you don't know what that is, it's 3 down linemen with 4 linebackers. They lost all 3 of their starting defensive linemen. So I'm having trouble.
Tough.
They have a good secondary, but Tennessee doesn't like to pass the ball anyway. So that's why I think Tennessee just pound them away and just kind of bully them basically in what we see as regular SEC games where you just try to bully your other team.
So we're both not sold on Dobbs being this amazing. Like, here's the thing. Like, obviously having a returning quarterback anywhere is beneficial to your team, right? And Dobbs did great last year with what he does. But I'm not sold on what he does is enough to beat teams like Florida, maybe even Georgia, but Florida, Bama, teams like that. Like, I'm just not sold. Now, granted, I think we both can agree the East is much, much weaker than the West, right, this year?
Yeah, easily.
So,
it usually
is. But this year especially, I think it's very weak. And
this year it's very weak.
It's 3 teams.
Yeah, it's Florida, Tennessee, and Georgia
it's
this
3
year.
Teams all day. There's not going to be a team that's a dark horse team besides Florida, Georgia, and Tennessee that's going to win the East. It's just not going to happen. I think Kentucky, in my opinion, is the next team that, like, they're closer than anyone else. But they still are. It's Kentucky. They're not that close. So
honestly, I think Florida would be your dark horse team just because nobody thinks they're going to win the SEC.
True.
Nobody thinks they're going to win the SEC. They have them finishing second. But
a lot of people have them third.
Also have second. The smarter people have them second. The media has them third, which the media is biased because their media is from all these teams and they don't know football. Half them don't even know what football is. They don't know football. they don't. Sorry, media. Some of y'all do, but some of y'all, especially the guy who thinks Vanderbilt was going to finish first. Like, come on now.
I mean, seeing Florida going 7-5 in some predictions is mind-boggling to me. But
who they going to lose to? Kentucky? I think Kentucky 20 in a row.
So moving on, we can move on to Florida if we want. So I think Florida as well has 5 games. I have them beating UMass, Kentucky, North Texas, Vanderbilt, Missouri, South Carolina Presbyterian, all relatively easily. I think they have 5 real games, and I do have them beating Arkansas with no problems, but I think, I say no problems. I think they're going to win the game, and this wasn't one of the games I was like, oh, this is a toss-up game, but I do think it's going to be a tough game going. I think they're at Arkansas in November. I think it's going to be a tough game, but I think they win the game, but I think it's going to be tough. So with those things in mind, I had 4 games. I was like, okay, these could kind of go either way, and that's Tennessee, LSU, Georgia, and FSU. And I have them going 2-2 in those games. So I have them beating Tennessee on the road, and I have them beating Georgia, and I actually have them losing to LSU and FSU.
Yeah, I mean that's fair to start the season because we don't know. If I had to pick between the LSU and the FSU game that have a better chance to win it, I would say LSU. I think they've big time closed the gap with LSU. As we saw the last couple of years, they've kept that game really, really close, and they should have won the Swamp the one year, but their tight end dropped the touchdown pass in the end zone. They probably should have won the one last year in LSU, but they didn't get the calls their way. With when Fournette fumbled the football, that ended up being a touchdown when it was pretty clear that he did, and I think most people agree that he did. Yeah, I think if since we are Florida fans, if we could be able to bias thinking 10-2. If I was to go the safer way, I would say 9-3. But I think 10-2. I really do think they'll go 10-2.
I think 10-2 is not inconceivable, and I think FSU is super talented this year. I really think they're going to have a good year. I mean, they return McGuire, they return Cook, so their offense is going to be fine.
I'm not sold on FSU, honestly. I think it's Dalvin Cook or bust. I don't like their quarterback that's replacing Sean McGuire for the start. I wasn't high on him. Florida tried to recruit him when he was coming out of high school. I just don't think he's a good quarterback for a Jimbo Fisher system.
McGuire's returning, isn't he?
Yeah, but he's injured for the start of the season. He's not going to play. They're going to go with their backup. I'm honestly not sold on. And I've talked to some Florida State fans that they think it's going to be one of their weaker teams. I think it's Dalvin Cook plus this year. Yeah, I really do. I think it's going to be one of their weaker. I still think they'll play Florida tough. And I still think they'll be a good team, but I don't think they'll be in the playoffs this year.
I don't think they're a national championship team.
They'll be a good team, but I still think their schedule's pretty tough. I think they're they
tough.
Yeah, I'm saying.
I mean, I think having to go to FSU is going to be tough. And I mean, if I had to pick, I think Tennessee could be the other game they lose in there. In all honesty, I don't think they lose to Georgia.
I don't think they do.
But I mean, LSU I think is super talented, and I think they have a legitimate chance to win the West. I still would give the nod to Bama. I want to see someone beat them, right? But I do think LSU has a legitimate chance in the West, so that's kind of why I think that's going to be a really tough game, even though they get them at home. Thank goodness they get them at home, because that's such a tough game doing LSU, especially if it's a night game. But that's what I have right now is 10-2, which with those losses, I actually have them going 7-1 in conference because I have them losing LSU and FSU, which is out of conference. So I think having them win the East just because of the fact that I have them at 7-1. But like we said, I think they could lose to Tennessee. But I just have trouble. Tennessee's overrated.
I just have trouble, with that. Just because I think a lot of people think the defense is going to take a step back. I'm not really believing. I think the defense is going to be better this year. I mean, The hardest guy to replace on that team is going to be, in my opinion, strong safety Keanu Neal. They just don't really have a viable replacement for, the kind of style of football he played. Very hard-hitting safety plays like Cam Chancellor. They don't have a good backup. we've kind of talked about Hargreaves and Tabor. You think Hargreaves was better. I think Tabor is going to be even better than Hargreaves. I think Hargreaves is a smarter corner. He reminds me of, he's Richard Sherman in a sense that he knows football very well, but he doesn't possess the athleticism. But Hargreaves' problem is he's only 5'10", whereas Richard Sherman's 6'2".
True.
And Jalen Tabor has just unmatched athleticism. He almost has not quite Patrick Peterson, but he has that kind of athleticism to where if he gets beat, he can recover from it because he's just so athletic, and he's what the NFL wants in corners. He's 6'1". I mean, he's a giant.
I think Hargreaves kind of almost reminded me a little bit of Tyrann Mathieu in a way. Just
a little less athletic.
Yeah,
a little less athletic.
Just given the way that he had a hard time matching up against number ones that were big.
Yeah,
and like you mentioned, it's because of his size. But yeah, I think Tabor's going to be really good this year, and so that's going to help when you have a clear number one corner
and then
shut someone down.
Yeah, and then you lose guy like Antonio Morrison, who was pretty good. Just a leader. He was a more of an old school linebacker. I like to call it. He's more of a thumper, where he wants if you're running through the hole and you see him, that's the guy you don't want to see in the hole. But if you see him covering you as a tight end, you're kind of licking your lips because you can burn them. I actually think their backup, Alex Anzalone, is actually going to be better. And then obviously Jared Davis, in my opinion, is the best linebacker in the country. I think he's going to be easily a first round. He's going to be big. He's fast. He hits hard. They got Marcus May back, which was huge. I think Caleb Brantley's super underrated. He wasn't even on the first or second team All SEC team. He thinks he's the best D lineman in the country. I think he's almost unblockable.
He's up there.
I think he's unblockable almost because I've seen some film on him. He's putting on a spin move, and he's 350 pounds. That's scary. He did it in the Ole Miss game. I'll have to send you the clip where he puts on a straight spin move on guard. Yeah, he's super athletic for a guy. He's 350 pounds. He plays that 5 technique, which is basically like a nose tackle. And when you have a guy up the nose who you can't block, that's so hard because when you have a guy rushing you up your face, it's just hard to get away from something like that because that's the quickest way to get to the quarterback is through the middle.
So moving on kind of to Georgia here, so that's the other team most people are in agreement. It's going to be some combination of Florida, Georgia, Tennessee in the top 3.
Yeah.
Most people are saying Tennessee's going to be number 1. I don't think it's going to be Georgia. So honestly, no. I think it's going to be Florida or Tennessee. And Georgia to me, they have some tough games just given the fact that, again, I think they have 4 real games because I don't think they have any trouble with Nichols, Missouri, South Carolina, Vandy, Kentucky, Auburn's really bad, Louisiana Lafayette, Georgia Tech is a rivalry game, so you never know, but I think they beat them. So I think at Ole Miss could be a tough game, even though Ole Miss isn't super talented. It's on the road. Tennessee, I think they lose that game. UF, I think they lose that game. And I have them beating North Carolina, but I think that's going to be a super tough game for them because North Carolina's returning their starting running back. They're returning, I'm pretty sure they're 3 top wide receivers. The reason why I'm not sold on North Carolina, for the opening of the year, is they have a new quarterback because they lost, I think it was Marquise Williams, right? And that's going to be tough for them to replace because he was one of the reasons why they really were good last year. So I don't know how sold I am on them for the beginning of the year because this is the opening week. Georgia, North Carolina. It's going to be a good game, but I don't know who to take in that game, so I'm just taking Georgia because I'm not sold on North Carolina's quarterback situation. So I have them at 10-2 as well, but I have them going 6-2 in conference. So I actually have them finishing 3rd after Florida and Tennessee because of the tiebreaker because I have them losing to Tennessee.
I have them going 8-4.
Oh, okay. So you have them losing. I would assume you have them losing North Carolina and Ole Miss.
No, I have them losing Ole Miss, Tennessee, Florida, and I actually think they're going to lose to Georgia Tech because I'm not sold.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sold on this team's ability to. I didn't believe it when I read it. They were the number 1 team against passing. They were the number 1 pass defense last year. Number 1 in the entire country. They only allowed 100. Georgia, number 1. But they're. Like I said, they lost a lot of defensive linemen. They have trouble getting penetration. Georgia Tech's not going to throw. They're only going to run. And a lot of teams, we saw in that the one game against FSU they played, it was like 2013. FSU couldn't stop their option attack, and that was FSU's best year. Or no, it was 2014, I think. Yeah, it was 2014.
Yeah.
They couldn't stop their option. Their option attack's so deadly.
I think the reason why I didn't give them Georgia Tech was I believe I had read Georgia Tech's not really returning many players. Like they
lost some of their the last year their running backs, the ones that they actually used the option with, were freshmen. I think they're returning their quarterback, and I think they're returning most of those running backs. The receivers don't really matter,
That's true.
because they don't throw the ball. They may throw the ball.
I read they're supposed to have they feel the most I don't want to say comfort, but they feel the most confidence in, I guess, their be back this year as they've ever felt, is what their head coach was saying. So, I mean, I could see it. I never know what to think about Georgia Tech. I mean, I think it's one of those teams that you'll know after, like, the first month whether they're for real.
Yeah.
So that's why it was kind of hard for me. And, I mean, yeah, like I said, I have them 10-2, but I think they could be anywhere from 9-3, 8-4. I don't see them going worse than 8-4, but I think they could be anywhere from that 8-4 to 10-2 range.
Yeah.
I don't see them winning more than 10 games, and I don't see them losing more than like 4 games.
I think 10-2 is a little too high. Speaking, we don't know who's going to play quarterback. They're probably going to. They have. Grayson Lambert was the starter last year. He struggled. They brought in 5-star Jacob Eason, who probably will be a superstar quarterback, but it's going to take time. Obviously, it's very tough for a freshman to come into this league and dominate. The reason why I think they lose to Ole Miss is because Ole Miss still has Chad Kelly. Chad Kelly is far and above the best quarterback in the SEC. It's not even close. Chad Kelly is by far the best quarterback in the SEC.
I mean, I think they have a relatively weaker schedule, in all honesty, and that's kind of why I got them up to 10-2 looking at their games, because, again, I'm not sold on Ole Miss being all that great. Like you said, they have Chad Kelly, but beyond that, I'm not sold. I mean, it is on the road, so that's why it's a toss-up.
Well, I think Ole Miss's defense will still be very good, and Georgia's got to be able to score some points to win, and that's where I'm having the problem. They lost their best receiver.
I don't think Georgia is a 10-2 talent team.
No, they're not even close.
Which makes me kind of now think maybe 9-3, 8-4, like you said, but I just, again, I'm not sold on Georgia Tech, Ole Miss.
I'm not sold on.
I think they could lose to Georgia Tech, Ole Miss, and North Carolina, and Tennessee, and Florida. So
I'm having trouble with Kirby Smart too as the head coach. I think he'll do good, but I'm not sure. I mean, just after we've seen usually defensive coordinators tend to just struggle as head coaches. Nick Saban's especially have had really bad luck with Will Muschamp, because Will Muschamp was his defensive coordinator at LSU. Sometimes it's tough for him. Usually you need almost an offensive-minded coach to come into this league to do well.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are really thinking Florida's the biggest question mark this year after the year they had last year. But in all honesty, again, talking about Georgia's schedule, I mean, there's, 5 games here that we just went over that they could lose?
Yeah, now if Florida struggles,
I don't see that. I mean, maybe if you threw in the Arkansas game, there's 5. If
Florida struggles its first couple of games with Del Rio as the quarterback, I'll be a little bit worried.
Right.
But I think Del Rio will do fine, because he obviously, the name sounds familiar. He's Jack Del Rio's son. He played it out. He was at Alabama, so he knows this offense well. He knows where guys are supposed to be, and he won't make the risk. He's a typical Alabama quarterback. I would group him in with that, where he's not going to shred your defense, but he's going to make the smart. He's not going to turn the ball over very often. That's your typical SEC quarterback right there.
So who do you have finishing last?
Last in the SEC?
East, yeah.
Yeah, South Carolina.
I do too. Do you have them winning a game in the conference?
No, I
don't either.
3-9.
I have them going. Oh, you have them at what?
Do you have 3-9? Yeah,
I do too.
Yeah, 3-9.
I have their wins being ECU, UMass, and Western Carolina. That's it.
Yeah.
I have them losing every SEC game. I just don't see. I was throwing, to be honest, I was between them and Missouri, because I don't think Missouri's going to be any good either. But I honestly was throwing it back and forth between them and Missouri on which team's going to be really dead last and probably not win a conference game. I mean, I have Missouri going 4-8, 1-7 in conference, so I have them really close behind. I kind of flip-flopped those at the last minute, because I don't know who's going to win this Missouri-South Carolina game, and I think that's going to decide who finishes last.
I think Missouri will win that game pretty easily.
I think it's going to be a defensive game, obviously. I mean, when you have Muschamp, and Missouri is not an offensive team, they're known as a defensive team, and Muschamp's a defensive coach, and he doesn't have anything there. for him. I think Muschamp's going to do a decent job in a couple years turning his program around to where they're at least respectable. I mean, we've talked about this. At Florida, we didn't really like him as a head coach, but as a recruiter, especially on the defensive side, he was elite, right? I mean, he brought in elite talent on the defensive side of the ball for Florida. And that's part of the reason why they had a fantastic year last year, was just what he had done previously in recruiting.
He just doesn't know offense, though. He knows nothing about offense.
Right.
When Jim McElway came in as the head coach, this is how bad Will Muschamp is with offense. When Jim McElway came in as the head coach, the players at offense said the offensive playbook like quadrupled in size. That's bad. I mean, that's bad. Will Muschamp's offense was run the ball 3 times and punt. I mean, that's what he likes to do. He's just South Carolina doesn't have good running backs. Their offensive line's bad. Their defense is terrible. They had 20 sacks last year. 20. That's so bad. Like, you're not gonna, if you can't get pressure on the team's quarterbacks, you're not gonna win any games. And their schedule's difficult. Their 3-9's fair for them.
Yeah, I have Vandy going 6-6, but I think it could be 5-7 if you think they lose to Auburn.
I have them going 5-7.
You have them losing, I would assume, Georgia Tech, Florida, Kentucky, Georgia, Auburn, and Ole Miss and Tennessee.
No, I have them losing to Georgia Tech, Florida. Let's see, Georgia Tech, Florida, Georgia.
Okay.
Kentucky.
Yep.
No, not Kentucky. Ole Miss and Tennessee. Yeah. So yeah.
So same thing.
Oh yeah, and then Kentucky. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have them 5-7, right?
Yeah, 5-7.
Okay.
Yeah,
I have them 6-6 because I think they have a chance to beat Auburn. I think Auburn's going to be really pretty bad in the West. But again, I think that's the real toss-up here is Vandy, Auburn. I think they could go 5-7 or 6-6. So that means they're either going to be 2-6 in conference or 3-5. I have them at 3-5 right now. I think they're going to finish tied with Kentucky at 6-6. But I think Kentucky beats them, so I think Kentucky gets the 4th place for me.
Yeah.
Because Kentucky, I think I have them losing to Florida, Bama, Mississippi State, Georgia, Tennessee, Louisville.
Yeah, that's what I...
The only... I have them beating in conference South Carolina, Missouri, and Vandy, which are arguably the other worst teams. So...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Kentucky's getting there, I think.
I think they are.
They're getting there, but their defense is... They're losing a lot of talent on defense.
They're returning a lot of offensive talent.
They're returning a lot of players on offense, but the problem is they lost their quarterback, Patrick Tolles. He transfers to Boston College. And
why did he transfer?
He just decided to transfer. I don't know why. He just did.
They're returning their starting running back, who is actually quite good.
Stanley Williams. He's a retort though, because he said his freshman year he was gonna run all over Florida, which made absolutely no sense.
That didn't happen.
They had lost. You can't say that about a team you lost to 24 times in a row. Like, shut up, you idiot. No, yeah, Kentucky will have a good offense, but their defense is going to be the problem. And even though as many starters on offense they have, it's when you're playing the SEC, it's tough because most of the defensive players in the SEC play on Sundays.
So we both we didn't discuss this at all before today's show, but do we both have Florida, Tennessee, Georgia, Kentucky, Vandy, Missouri, or South Carolina in that order?
Yeah, yes.
I think we disagree a little bit on some of the records, but the order we have the same, and I think that's not shocking. I think the East is a little easier to predict than the West is going to be, because the West, I think some of the teams are a lot closer in talent. I think the East, you have that spread of Tennessee, Georgia up here. I think Kentucky and Vandy are kind of in the middle, and then obviously Missouri and USC or South Carolina are way behind everyone else in the East and in the entire conference. But again, like I said, I don't doubt in a couple of years I think South Carolina is going to be in that mid-tier again, because I think Muschamp's going to do a relatively good job recruiting on defense. But
yeah, defensively they'll be good. Offensively, they'll never, with him as the head coach, no offense to him, they'll just never be there enough to win any games.
Unless he brings in some great offensive mind to be his coordinator that can also recruit.
It doesn't matter, though, because he's had good offensive coordinator, and the problem is Will Muschamp likes to call his own games. He doesn't listen to his offensive coordinator. He brought in Kurt Roper again. If it didn't work at Florida, why is it going to work at South Carolina?
Yeah, I'm still salty about what happened with that situation.
You bring T. Rob, who was his DB coach at Florida. He's so overrated.
Roper, that was supposed to be our savior on offense.
I like McElway firing him because Roper's a spread coordinator, and
Oh
he's
yeah,
not.
it just didn't fit now. But I'm saying when he came in, when Muschamp was coach, it was supposed to be this huge like thing, and it didn't even look like his kind of offense that we were running. But
No, we were running more pistol.
Yeah.
It was still Muschamp's offense.
It was
And
still
then
Muschamp.
T-Rob, I don't like T-Rob. I think he's an idiot. He said he was going to stay at Florida. He leaves at the last second for no reason. He can't coach DBs. It's apparent. Look what he did at Auburn last year. They were terrible on defense. He was only a good. The only reason he stuck around is because of what people thinks he did at Florida. But look at the talent Florida had in the second. Look at the talent they had in the secondary. He had a coach. He didn't have to coach that. Florida. I'm glad he left now because the DB coach that Florida has, I'm excited for. I think Torian Gray's a fantastic DB coach. I mean,
Our
you can
defense, or the Gators defense, just
you can just
scary.
look at the talent that Torian Gray's coach. He coached Cam Chancellor, the Fuller brothers, Brandon Flowers. I mean, those are fantastic. Those are all first round picks outside of Brandon Flowers, but he was elite when he was in Kansas City. So
and Fuller, I mean obviously he's not elite yet, but he's getting there.
The Fuller brothers are good. Yeah, he's coached some fantastic DBs, especially Chancellor. He's the one who moved Cam Chancellor to safety.
Yeah, I mean, Cam Chancellor's been amazing. So, kind of to wrap up today, we're going to be doing our SEC West preview next week. Leave a like, guys, if you enjoyed this video. Leave a comment if you disagree with us, if you think we're idiot Florida fans that are discounting Tennessee's outrageous talent. Just tell us if we're complete dead wrong on this, but I don't think we are. I think Tennessee is going to disappoint some people this year. Tennessee was hyped a little bit last year, and look what happened. So I think they're better this year, but we'll see what happens. So we may have a surprise guest for the SEC West preview show next week. We may have a three-way show. We'll see how that works out, but thank you guys for joining us today. I've been Mike with That Guy Expo, joined by
Corey.
All right, so thank you guys for tuning in and joining us today on the show. It's been Michael with That Guy Expo with Exponential DFS and Exponential Sports Talk. See you guys.
Bye.
HBK, yeah, you know how we. And I can't quit. All I know is